Hi, everybody. We forgot about the 30-second countdown. If you have to go to the bathroom, I'd say go quickly. But if you don't have to, just know that you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious. My name is Bart Sharp, and you are in United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And yes, we are worldwide. We are all over the place, whether that be in a radio station out on the East Coast or out of New Orleans, but also on the UPRN Talk Radio website, also on Roku, Facebook, YouTube, and other internet platforms. And God, I thought that went off really well today. I think I'm picking up the vibe of my guest who I've had on this show before, and every time I do, it's kind of mind-boggling. I just walk away and go, God, there's people who live like that are big dreamers, that have big ideas, put it into action, put it in application, serve it to the people in a variety of ways. I don't know how they have time to sleep, to be honest. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Shannon, Gill, and Russel von Ohlhausen. Hi, guys.
Nice to see you, Bart. Hi, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't put that down. They live in a little community. Thus, we who live in Texas, at least in my book, there's two cool towns in Texas that I would live in. And that would be Austin, Texas, where I live. And then just down the road, about 40 miles, 60, 70 kilometers, is Wimberley, Texas. And it is, it's kind of a groover's paradise, quoted by Doug Somm, and that's where you two are from. And I just wanted to read, just to give you a little bit of Russel's and Shannon's bio. Russel von Ohlhausen is a research astrologer, writer, and teacher whose work bridges cosmology, consciousness, and the natural world. A student of Buddhism, Hermetic, Christian philosophical traditions, and having lived and studied in Tibet, his work reflects a lifelong synthesis of science, myth, religion, metaphysics, and direct observation of nature. And Shannon Gill is an evolutionary and archetypal astrologer whose work integrates ancient cosmology, psychological insight, and embedded spiritual practice. With a background in Buddhist psychology and sacred dance, she guides individuals and communities through transformative cycles using astrology, ritual embodiment, and archaeological integration. Together, Russel and Shannon are co-founders of the Shift Foundation, a nonprofit organization, the Astrom Alliance, and the Astrological Society of Greater Austin. Their collaborative work bridges astrology, consciousness research, and community building through teaching, writing, and the development of new frameworks that unite ancient wisdom and energizes scientific and cultural paradigms. They are also host ecstatic dances, community saver gatherings, immersive retreats, creating spaces for embodied transformation, creative exploration, and collective evolution, and are parents to teenage children. And I said, no, you're like, how do they do this? Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. That's a lot of words. We might want to condense that next time.
No, it's fine. I love it.
Interesting to sit through that. That's it's like my mind's going, how many things are missing off that list? But thank God you didn't go any further.
Yeah, I skipped a few actually. It's really good.
We have a lot going on in our reality, and I think it takes a lot, and we're challenged with a lot as we're bridging these new worlds. Becoming we were talking about the title right before we got on, becoming quantum consciousness, and how it is aligning with our mission of becoming the new human. we're taking on this new human enterprise as our core mission. We're not just astrologers anymore. We're here. Once you get past this understanding in the veil, then you take on, the mission beyond that is to lift all of humanity together collectively. So that is part of the quantumness. You're affecting the field. So how to do that best? That's where we align, I think, in our cross mission.
It does, and so many are doing it these days. Of what you do, what you think, emote, creates that vibration, and that vibration goes out, and it affects people whether they know it or not. It's
Right.
It's kind of sneaky.
It's covert, right? Yeah. Well, we love it because it's non-dogmatic, it's non-divisive. It doesn't matter what your belief system is, really. I think that's one of the major shifts out of the Dark Ages, the Pisces Age, where we're coming out of the illusion of separation and duality and into our unitive consciousness. And it is a vibrational shift, and it is about frequency and the evolution of such. And so, you don't have to be doing all of the things that we are specifically, guided to do, Russell and I. Really, if we can just maintain our frequency at a high vibrational state, then we are contributing. We are contributing to the evolution.
We really are, or you two are, and I'm on it every day. It's such a fascinating thing. And the topic, to me, when you sent this in to me, I was just like, oh boy. And I'm just going to read this to everybody if you haven't heard it yet. Awakening the New Human, Astrology and the Great Shift to Consciousness. And this is like happening right now. I mean, to me, February was like an amazingly powerful month in the energetic fields. My own personal inner journey was electrified. And we were just talking about that just before we went on the show about stuff is happening. What do you see in this time?
Well, I mean, you said it. February is the most significant month of the year.
Wow.
If not 6,000 years. So
it's been a busy month. Yes, it's been a busy month on all fronts.
Truly, and astrology is the history of cycles, and there's always cycles within cycles within cycles. So we have the larger, long-ranging cycles. That's the backdrop, which is of course the shift of the era, the ages, and then we have we have eclipse seasons and we have yearly cycles. And in February, we, of course, as we talked about earlier, we left the Chinese astrology year of the wood snake, and we entered the year of the fire horse. And that was on February 17th, which was also the first Aquarius eclipse in 9 years, solar eclipse. So a solar eclipse is a new moon. So it's the birth of a new cycle, a new quantum cycle, a new cycle connected to soul evolution, which is what the eclipses are really implying. But even beyond that, 3 days later, we had the ingress of two of our outer planets, Saturn, which rules the material world, the third dimension, reality, structure, foundation, leadership, and Neptune, which rules the infinite, the mystery, the Godhead, enter into the 0 degrees of Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac, which means that it was leaving the end of the zodiac. And those two planets imply that we are scaffolding or architecting Saturn a new dream, Neptune. And they come together every 36 years, which is a big deal, but they haven't come together at the beginning of the zodiac in 6,000 years. So truly, this is, as far as incremental shifts, everybody always wants to know, well, when did the Aquarian age really begin? We can talk about the markers throughout time that maybe started in the 60s, 2012, 2020. And I would say, and a lot of astrologers are sort of concurring that 2026 is the launch pad. And if you look at it archetypally, I mean, we're talking about fire, right? Fire's creation, it's birth. And we've got the fire horse, and Aries is the warrior, which is about fire, which is also about birth. So it sort of feels like, all energy moving forward at the same time, for sure.
It does. And last week with the 17th with the eclipse, and then Neptune and Saturn that was an intense week. I don't know if anybody else is shaking their heads wherever you are going, dang, that's what happened. I just thought it was a truck that hit me. But I mean, for the 17th, I tried to meditate as much as I could and do as much of that. And then when I tried to do physical labor, I just couldn't do it. It was so balmy.
What was the
Wow.
feeling? What was your experience of the energy?
It feels like there's an ease in life uh, that is so strong right now. That things like what I place my heart on seems to happen more.
Mm. Same, same. I feel that is really where we're operating from now, is the heart space. And if you can get to that level and maintain that level, it's not always possible right now. I went through a similar experience recently. I called it the pothole. I couldn't. I'm normally highly functioning, and then suddenly my mind shut off. I went into, I'm a Cancer, so I can be very sensitive to these things, and I went into this pothole. And Shannon has known long enough to, like, okay, he's in his pothole. He'll come out when the moon shifts or the tide changes or whatever planet is holding him down. He knows the system. So and then luckily I slowly came out of that. But yeah, so that's where we are right now, is being able to tune into, but also be very subtly aware of our own parts in this process as we move into this quantum shift. It's affecting us on a molecular level, if you want to think of it that way, a particle level. Everything is integrated.
So if it happens on a particle level, what can you give advice to the listeners out there of how to interact and be a part of that big flow?
I'll just say, charge your battery. Do everything you can to remember that you are the technology we've been waiting for. So it's all inside of you. So you have a choice. We're going to assimilate more and more of this synthesized AI technology, or you can focus on the biology that you're born with, and purifying
Mm.
that, getting the battery system, getting getting all the toxins out, getting it charged up, drinking pure water, taking all the right minerals, doing everything that the ancient alchemists talked about. Charge up the body battery, and you'll be able to tap into that flow. And that doesn't take a lot of effort. I mean, when you really start getting into it, once you get it into it at regular practice, this is what it's going to take to become a new human. We have to make it almost a religious thing, but it's worth it in the end, because that is really the goal of what it is to be human. We've forgotten all this. We can work our way back to truth. We're seekers, but now many of us have shifted from being seekers of truth to, once we have identified what we're kind of into, what we're I don't want to say facing off with, but what the realization of the world is. We're now looking for our freedom, our sovereignty, and that is the Pluto and Aquarius element that's underneath all of this, driving this. Plus, we've been in the Aquarian age, if you look at it from a particular point of view. This is sovereignty and freedom for the soul, for the self, and that's going to drive the biological unit to achieve true quantum consciousness moving forward.
Well, that's a beautiful expression. Um, so it's so much about that disciplines, and also maybe that question of, like, what do you need to invent to be in that flow? Because we haven't all got I'm sure there's not one of us that has it all figured out, and we're perfectly in sync. There's always something to learn.
I think we're in uncharted territory in a lot of ways, but yet I feel like we have the codes inside of us. And I agree with Russell that the vessel is the holy temple, right? And so we have to have a pure vessel to be able to receive the frequencies and the guidance and the messages. But I do feel like we're really at the graduate level and really being asked a lot to be able to ascend out of this density and out of this chaos. We really have to become masterful in working with all the dimensions. So also the mind and the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a constant influx of interference, we shall say, bombarding us for our attention, right? and a lot of it not with the highest agenda, right? With actually quite a nefarious agenda, if you ask me. And so we have to be able to filter and navigate how to mitigate the field around us. And so I've been in sort of my own sort of deep dive in the last year around learning about the quantum physics of mind and emotion, and how we can entrain ourselves to the frequency that we want to amplify, because we know these things conceptually. Oh, we stay in a high vibe place, we attune to the right vibration, everything goes better if we do the negative. But it's not always so easy. It's not
Yeah.
always. And so this is where we really have to become masterful around precision of thought, precision of mind. If we catch ourselves being invaded by something that's invoking a frequency of density or fear, instead of feeding it with narrative and corroborating it with story, then actually we let it pass through. It only takes 90 seconds for an emotion to pass through. And then we can actually make a conscious choice of another one. But this takes
Now, I got to get a little more specific about that. It only takes 90 seconds for an emotion to pass through. That almost sounds like a dog or a cat. They can do that pretty well. Humans, we get tripped up on that little concept. You're talking about if you're not judging it, or you have no more past repressed emotions that would be getting charged or triggered from that experience you're feeling in those 90 seconds. Am I right when I say that?
I am saying that. And that's why I say this is the master's level, right? Because it
Yes.
is a part of the evolutionary journey to clear out the basement of the old residual emotional patterns from childhood, from our maternal and our paternal line. That was really what we were doing in the Pisces age, is clearing out the emotional body.
So
And
how is that going to be easier?
yes, actually, it does get easier. But well, let me say this. I feel like it's simple and not always easy. I feel like a lot of us have done so much shadow work and so much work around our stories, and that's part of this ascension into the new human, is that actually a lot of that was part of the illusion, that we're separate and we all have these specific stories. And this new human is constellating as a one being, a one mind consciousness. And that's a completely different experience and perception of reality.
Wow. I love that quote that you just said. It's simple, but it's not always easy. I think the whole audience could probably resonate with that. Anything that you want to add to that concept with it, to give guidance to how people can do that? I mean, particularly in, uh, I know we're talking about emotional things, but there's this astrological component with that too. That, am I making any kind of sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, simple but not always easy. I think it's about returning to a natural connection with nature, getting off the screen.
Hmm.
Very simple things, but not easy to do, because again, we're in a place of the collective psyche is really in a trauma state. You know, everything around us is going nuts. There's nothing to hold on to. And so, in order to keep ourselves centered and in a state of coherence, it's the simple practices, like Russell was saying, back to the body. Is
Yeah.
saying it's like getting some sunshine. It's like getting your feet on the earth, limiting your screen time, drinking your water, catching yourself, having a mindfulness practice. If you start looping down into story, getting hijacked into division, it's this person, it's that party, it's that political leader that's to blame. That's still duality.
That's still part of the old program. And one of the things I wanted to say is, remember that we're receiving an upgrade. So this is an Aquarian operating system update that we're getting. But don't resist the update. If you resist the update, your files will be corrupted, and you will remain a corrupted old Piscean operating system, and you will fall away and go by the way of old computers. Yes, think of the technologies shifting. So remember that our general operating system that we are under right now started thousands of years ago as simply just as the ego protecting and self-preserving. It started out as that, and then it became a tribal mechanism. And then that tribal mechanism became institutionalized, and now it is the operating system that currently runs unconsciously, operating the entire world. That is this corporatized system, and then industrialized. It has become so industrialized, and it runs itself automatically. But that is falling away for this new conscious system to come online, and they're competing. They're going to be competing for a while. These two systems.
Mm-hmm.
So, but don't resist the update to quantum level Aquarian consciousness. And if you do, you kind of you will again, yeah, you become outdated completely. So that's the new human part. And everything you can do to support the new software and the hardware, upgrade yourself.
So are there any characteristics that you see in your life that you're going to, or that you see in other people, go, oh, that's this 2026 thing here. That's those behaviors in action.
I do. I feel like we're surrounded by a community here that's really practicing what it is that we're sharing, and they are employing their gifts. So this is a year of fire, which is about action and activation of bringing forth your contribution to the organism. Aquarius is organismic consciousness, and we're all an organ. So they're contributing their participation. We like to get together and celebrate often and dance, because we really do feel like we're anchoring a frequency on the planet, and that there's also a level of existential trust that the dissolution of the system and all of the revealing of all the darkness has to happen. It's necessary. And so there's no pushing back against it. There's no, some of us on the planet have known about what some of the things going on behind the scenes for decades. So there's no surprise. I know it's not the same for everyone. However, those of us that have been preparing that rainbow bridge for a while are celebrating that we're finally here.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's, nobody's going to know all the right answers with this, or whatever you think it's going to be. I think everybody's going to be surprised from all walks of life. That's always my assumption, and therefore I'm just trying to stay open to this year. One thing that was simple that I saw in my own neighborhood while I was going out for groceries today, somebody had a little faucet in front of their house with this big water jug and a bowl down below, which meant anybody could come and turn on the faucet and fill up a water bowl for their dogs that were hot from a dog walk. And that wouldn't be their own dogs, but it was just like a generosity that they wanted to take care of dogs.
Community, right? That's the new paradigm, which is kind of hilarious that we think it's new, but we really need to go back to living in harmony and supporting each other. And so that's a real big part of our mission with the Shift Foundation is supporting the health and cohesion of community.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some changes ahead, and some of it could be considered rough times economically. But this is part of the concentrated process of consciousness. Think about what happened during the Great Depression in this country, in other parts of the world during that same cycle. Yeah. People did come together. We didn't have money. You had to get in a barter system. You had to work with people. You had to develop a plan. There had to be a level of trust, and a level of creating community. Now we're going through a similar cycle. We're returning to that level of energy where we have to begin to share again. Because community is going to be changing in how we operate.
It's always good to go live in another country. That like I live in France. The economy is totally different. I live in a very poor area where it's very rural, but it's highly metaphysical, and all of these people that are really into metaphysics all live there without hardly any money. But everybody's really happy.
Yeah, you're working some magic, and that's what you have to begin to believe, that you can create this world somehow magically, and see beyond the struggle that we've created here. And you get magical thinkers together like that, and I think that's what's happening here in Wimberley. We have a lot of magical and we're creating this new web because we're doing it on faith. We're doing it on, virtually no money ourselves half the time. So, so we work in the nonprofit fields, and we're guided by what consciousness tells us to do. And yeah, it's an amazing process if you can see it from the inside.
So a lot of your work is for free, and you let money take care of itself in a lot of ways. I mean, it happens. You do have to concentrate on it, but
Right.
it's not this high end priority.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think now,
I love it.
everything is everything is shaking off so quickly. As we're moving through these new vibratory fields and taking on, we're increasing our capacity to move through these emotional shifts. So we were talking earlier about 90 seconds. I'm like, you know what? We can get past this faster than 90 seconds. If you can really become the time magician that we realize that we are, you can be
Mhm.
you can move through a disruptive emotion that's affecting your field in less than 90 seconds. You can control that. This is what the Zen masters do. This is what it takes to be a true martial artist in a way. And we're going to move through a time of the spiritual. All this Aries coming in, we're activating the spiritual warrior right now, and this is where you have to do it in your mind first, like a Zen master.
So can you give some insight of how for people who go, what? I don't have to hang on to that? Any advice, any insight to how they can do it?
Well,
I mean,
having an observer perspective, you know what I'm saying about having like a sacred witness that is has some distance from your reactions, so that you have a certain mindfulness in place to be aware what you're the way you're operating. Are you reacting or are you responding? Right. So there's nothing wrong with emotions. Emotions are natural, but they come and they go. There's a natural wave to them. It's what the
yeah.
mind does that can spin out and perpetuate an emotion by thinking of the past, or like you said, perhaps there's some unhealed trauma there, and that's work to do as well. And there's plenty of technologies that can help with that. Or worrying about the future. So the mind actually can perpetuate the emotion through its meandering and its wandering. So this is where, you've got to become a Jedi, like Russell always says, to allow the emotion to come and to go. And then if it's really strong, do something. Go outside, turn on music, take a cold shower, and I do have a degree in Buddhist psychology, so I was sort of trained in some of this mind control business. I have a mantra: if I catch my mind going down a negative rabbit hole that I don't think is productive, I say thinking to myself. And so sometimes several times a day I'm like thinking, and immediately it brings me back. So that's working more with the mind. The emotions are a little bit different because they do have to run their course, but we actually
Yeah.
have to control that, and we think that we do.
I would say, one of the things we can do is get into our fundamental core programming. Get down to take some time to go into our belief systems, see what really makes them up. Knowing yourself. This is where astrology, individual astrology, becomes important. Knowing what you are attuned to, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where you may have blind spots that have been usurped by other programming. So like get in and know your true programming. What is really you, and what is that external process is affecting you. Once you can tune into that using astrology to do that, then you can redirect the program so that you can make sure that you're staying in tune with what's coming and not being programmed by what has been.
So true. I keep thinking about my father's voice. He was, he went through generations of abuse, or he was the product of that, as was I. And it's so much about that internal voice. And to me, there was a lot about the Piscean type of mentality that we carried on, that masculine form of using emotions to just drive us, and a lot of times in the most negative ways. But sure enough, it pushes life through, and people use a lot of force and density to get life done. But 2026 may be different.
Yeah, I think, even just looking at the elemental shift from 2025 to 2026, 2025, the predominance was earth and water. Water, of course, is emotions. Earth is like practicality. Together they make mud. And it was the year of the snake. So, I mean, most people I know went through a season of shedding, and really in surprising ways, because the way that we really experience it, that we're really arriving at the eye of the needle of this birth process that we were born for, and nothing gets through. And so we had to do this final sort of purging and cleansing of things that we're still hiding, or that we were unconscious of, or wherever our personal business needed to be taken care of. And so 2026, we shift into fire and air. So this is swift, it's fast, it's creative. It also could get out of control like a wildfire, right? So we will have to be aware.
Control. What is control?
Have to be aware of mitigating the fire. You know, burnout, also predominance of fire is anger and all those things, right? And so,
Yep.
you know, with any energy or archetype, there's a spectrum of light and shadow. But I do feel like the fire energy is going to help us activate what we have been preparing for, dreaming of, that seems like it's never going to happen. And it's the fire horse is saying, it's time to go for it. It's time to gallop forward. Be brave. Like Russell says, the spiritual warrior. Like we all need to be in sacred action. The program from the Pisces age was that we're powerless and that we're bystanders to reality, and that we're told what to do. And that is part of what is dying and what is ending, is that we are co-creating. We are the awakened dreamers creating the new earth, which means that we're all responsible to be in action.
Yeah. Well, the horse is one of the strongest creatures on the planet. And if we're going to be breaking down so much of our past and letting it go, sounds like a horse is very appropriate.
You know, just on the note of the horse, we still use in lawyers, it says esquire, and that it refers to being having a horse. You know, so there is a bit of nobility that comes with this. With the year of the fire horse, you need to take on an aspect of ennoblement. Don't take on irrational causes. I mean, yes, if you have some cause you need to be a part of, that's fine. But you make sure that you're in alignment with your own truth and then the higher truth of which you stand for. You know, so. That I can see this fiery sword along with this fiery horse, and there is a level of responsibility that comes with that. You know, protecting others, being a part of the greater experiment, and taking action. That is.
Yeah, it just feels so much like a community. And right now we're at midpoint of the show, so I wanted to let everybody know that you are listening to Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 and 103.5. And I have not even allowed comments to come in or put out the banners. Yes, I love you too. I can't read your name, Mary Ellen. This is too funny. It's been such an intense conversation. Yes, this is 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana, United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So, for diversion, Shannon and Russell, just wanted to read your websites. Gosh, you have so many great ones. You can contact Shannon and Gill at Shannon Lee Gill, and that's SHANNONLEIGILL, and also mindfrontiers.net. That's your site, though, Russell, right?
That's me. If you want to
okay. Yeah. And then the shiftfoundation.org, and then astrom.org, which is a lot where you do your volunteer services and such.
That's actually the school, the Astrom, and the Shift is our community nonprofit.
Okay. That's much straighter now. Thanks. So could you just give us a couple of minutes of what projects you're doing? What are you putting out in the world?
Well, you know, we've been trying to redefine that with this new year. We've had all these components, like these little organelles floating around for so long, and it's like, how do we put an umbrella around this? And so this idea of this new human enterprise just has been coming in, the new enterprise for the new age. And I feel like that's really our goal is how do we function as a network? How do we function? We know all the right people. We know all the right things. We have all the right resources coming in now. So how do we build a node for us around Wimbledon? I think it's naturally happening. And we're part of a community that's helping move that forward. One of the things that has fallen into our lap by this mystery, of mysteries that we're all part of, is this project called Land of Genius, a small property over near the Radiance community here near the Indian temple, the Varsanadhan temple in South Austin. And what this is about is 9 domes and a 10th central dome acting as a community dome. But these domes will be for an eco hotel, plus also for healing, representing the planets. The idea is to bring a higher transformational knowledge through astrology, through Kabbalah, through Sufism, through all these different techniques into this space as a kind of a healing space, and it really works well with the community that's already been established there for the last. It's been a TM community there for the last 40 plus years. So. Yeah, so I feel like everything is kind of divinely aligned. We're near the 30th parallel here, and you're functioning kind of like we are in Egypt. So we're like, we just accept the fact we're part of a larger mystery. It has to do with Earth geometry, it has to do with consciousness. After a while, you just start getting used to all these synchronicities, and you just become a part of them, and you flow with it. So
exactly. When you drive into Wimberley, it almost looks like you're seeing these hills that look like pyramids. Anyway, it's a nice. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, those are nodes. Those are actually kind of just information nodes where consciousness kind of gravitates, and I think it forms a field around here. And the whole Earth is layered with a conscious field, and I think it concentrates almost like magnetic force. It concentrates in certain places, and here's a place where it's becoming alive again. There's 2 aquifers that meet under our area. There's also this strange anomalies that kind of you can feel them in the field when you walk on the Earth if you're very sensitive and attuned to that. And each one of these little mountaintops that we have around here are kind of governed by some of our community. We started a conscious community that we activated about nine of those, I believe.
Wow.
So we have those mystical, magical makers working here because they're being brought here by the process itself.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, you were about to mention something as well, weren't you?
Oh, well, I think I was just saying, this is living in the quantum field, right? We have this magical thing sort of manifest, and one of the things I would say I'm excited about with this new project of the Land of Genius is that we have these new tools available now that we've really emerged into this new paradigm. And I work with frequency technology, which is a integration of Nikola Tesla and Royal Rife technology that helps to keep our frequencies optimized in coherent states. So because it's a lot, to deal with the density of a dying age and the bombardment of all the negativity, and not to mention 5G and all the stuff in our food and our water. But there's tools. And so one of the things that will be at the Land of Genius is that we're going to have some of the latest cutting edge technological, medical, like the med beds and all these different things, which are really going to help. I think it's the future of medicine. Honestly, I really feel like a lot of this technology has been around since Atlantis and Lemuria coming back online. So I'm excited about that.
And how would somebody find out about getting in touch with that?
Well, you can come to me on my website. I actually am getting people involved in this movement. We're creating a network of quantum living advocates, and you can actually run the technology yourself from your phone, and you can scan and optimize yourself and 14 other people at a time anywhere in the world. It's scalar technology. It's non-local. The Land of Genius Retreat Center is not constructed yet. We're still in the formulation phase, so that will be coming online soon. But I also have sessions. I'm a full-time practitioner, evolutionary astrology, but I do the frequency work as well. So if you wanted to experience that, you could book a session with me on that as well.
And what website would that be? Because I've read 4 of them and probably need to get it all sorted out.
It's my personal one. It's just my name, Shannon Lee Gill, LeiGill.
All right.
Cool. Yeah. And we also have an event coming up if you're in the local area So spring equinox, March 20th, is a Friday, and one of the beautiful locations that we operate out of, Lotus Bend Sanctuary, is in Manchac. It's a retreat center that Russel built, and we sort of birthed together. And so we'll be doing a really beautiful celebration, activation, astrological download of the astrology for the quarter, but then a ceremony on the land with a fire, labyrinth walking. Everything has been constructed on the chakra line at this beautiful space. Russel Mastermind is just like the Temple of Man in Egypt. And so it's a really special sacred portal. So we would love to have anybody that's in the area to join us on. And you can find that. That's not on my website. You said you put it on the Shift website?
It's on the shift.foundation.org.
Yes, on our nonprofit, Shift Foundation,
Right.
shiftfoundation.org. Or
Wow.
you can find it on social media too.
Wow. You two have so much going on. It's wonderful. So let's just look into 2026, because we've talked about February and this big launch that we have just jumped into. Can you give us any anticipations of how you see the rest of the year coming about?
Yeah, since this is live, we'll go ahead and say that March 3rd, we have our second eclipse. So we're in the bardo, in between the eclipses right now, and we'll have our lunar eclipse, so our full moon, end of a cycle eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd. And so lunar eclipses are about endings. And so, anytime we're in an eclipse portal, it's really these grand beginnings and endings that are sort of evolutionary markers on our soul's journey. So this is when the big change happens. But the portal is 6 weeks long. So the portal doesn't close till March 18th. So between now and March 18th, we're sort of in this liminal space where our soul evolution is being reshuffled. And then I would say from there,
I did want to add a little bit of information that I pulled up today, because I like to look at how these mysteries sync up with religion and, what we see here. And we're on March 3rd is Purim. It's the festival of the victory of the Israelites over the Persian Empire. And there's a lot of talk that this could be one of those signs from the heavens. We're going to see some action taking place in the Middle East. But it's also a blood moon. It is visible in the Central Texas region, and you should be able to see this all the way over Hawaii and the rest of the western states. The blood moon is seen as a sacrificial moon, and something is, I think, important may happen along these things. Everything is aligned somehow. If you believe in tarot, if you follow any of these other connections to consciousness, you understand that the signs also give us, the planets also give us symbols, not just through their signs, but how they radiate energy. So one of the prophecies about the blood moon in Christianity is this is an eschatological sign. It is beginning of the ending of the ages. So there's a lot of symbols and cycles that are playing out eschatologically that we see in the prophecies in the Bible and the Quran and the Torah teachings that are actually manifesting now. All these synchronicities are also aligning with certain planets and certain degrees. We know we're moving towards something. Something's moving us in a geometrical pattern towards like an attractor. It's pulling us in like a gravity well. And you can see if you understand patterns, you can see the synchronicities, and we're moving towards this shift into different singularity.
I wanted to ask a question in regards to that. For an individual approaching this sacrificial time, would it be that application be like, what are you willing to let go of to step into this next big change? Would that be a good question to ask?
So that's the perfect question to ask.
We just had Lent as well, so what can we let go? Letting go is in the field.
And it's personal to all of us, but we get information about what is being asked of us by looking at the sign that the eclipse falls in, and it's in Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with health. And the sun is in Pisces, so it's very existential. It's like, how are you dealing with the unknown? How are you dealing with the collective anxiety? Are you doing your meditations, and are you working with it, or are you overwhelmed and you're checking out, and maybe you want to let go of some things that you're, self-soothing with.
How can you do that 90-second letting go of any emotion much more efficiently?
Right. I mean, I feel like, there's a lot of addiction on the planet, and addiction takes
Yes.
many forms, right? Distraction, etc. And so this axis where the eclipses are has to do with dealing with our addictions. It has to do with the purification of the body, has to do with letting go and trusting the unknown. So I would say it's personal for everyone. We all kind of know where we're falling in this. And I would also just say that, it's controversial, but it is visible, the eclipse here in this area. But a lot of astrologers feel that you should not go and actually look directly into the eclipse. So I just want to
Mm.
put that out there for people to feel into their own intuition about that. I
Hmm.
used to be on the fence about that, and I definitely won't be looking at it.
Yes, in Tibet they go out with pots and pans and they bang, the energies away to keep all to
Hmm.
break up the frequencies. Literally, they're disturbing the frequencies so they don't affect them as evil spirits.
Wow. Well, the eclipse we had a couple of years ago that came through Austin, the solar eclipse, I laid out in my backyard, and of course I could take my camera and take pictures and get actual images. But I just said, okay, so I trust the sun a lot. I meditate with the sun a lot. So I was just asking that question, what can you transform, strip away in that? I mean, that was the question I asked.
Well,
Because,
see, you're working with it consciously. And so if you're working with it consciously, then that's a beautiful thing. But I would say not to just work, just to see it as a spectacle, because these
oh
are
yeah,
very, very powerful lunations and energies, and it's the darkness that's coming in.
yes.
So we're working, so we really better know what we're doing. And really, it's
Yeah.
better to be quiet and in meditation
Yes.
and contemplative. Um, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
came through. We were in the X marks the spot where the previous eclipse had come through, and then that particular eclipse came through, and it felt like it ripped like shreds through consciousness to so many people, including ourselves. It was like what needed to be revealed was being revealed, and it was brutal. And so many people I know had
Yes.
that experience on the ground and for months afterwards, and still suffering the effects and talking about it 2 years later.
Well, it's really interesting you say that because that's what a friend of mine, who I regard her opinion a lot, said that reality between the sun and the moon, when the eclipse happens, where they, I guess, overlay layer in that circle, rips through various dimensions and realities all at once, and so it sears into you, so to speak, in your psyche, and it's nothing to be afraid of. You just kind of, are you willing to, in the words of Lou Reed, walk on the wild side?
Yeah.
You're going to feel it even if you're not looking at it.
Well,
And so if you're going to look at it, then be in a place of prayer is my
yes.
suggestion.
It taught me to
I
have more respect for the process of eclipses.
yeah, I agree. I think what we all three love is just living on that edge of consciousness, and it's not like a wild thrill ride. It's we have an extreme desire to change as much as possible.
Yes. Right.
Exactly.
And and that's a different thing. Some people won't change, but they want it at a slower pace.
Well, if you can realize what we're talking about, if you have any experience with the effect of an eclipse upon you or your family, and you realize the intensity the planets can have, then you should take astrology seriously. Because these
It's
other aspects and transits we're talking about are going to start to build and have equal effect, as such as a devastating eclipse or whatever you want to, how you label that. These
and
will
as
these will have positive and negative effects on you.
and as we go into the year, there's going
Yes.
to be one eclipse, one solar happening or lunar happening, and other planetary happenings like very regularly. It's a very busy year astrologically. Am I getting that right?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, after the eclipse season closed, we're going to have 6 planets in Aries piling up in March and April. So that's a red flag alert for a rise in the tension on the planet and too much fire. And then in April, we're going to have
One of my favorite one I've been
Yeah,
looking
you
forward to this again is like Uranus entering Gemini, because this is going to be the spark that brings on the revolution. This is like the
Mm,
going this the into the powder, spark into the powder keg, so
yeah.
it's going to kick off when Uranus goes in there. I think it's going to kick off all these polarizations. Further, you see what's already happening out there in the field. Everything's becoming more polarized, and they're going to concretize, and you're going to see that spark all kind of revolutions across the planet. And I mean, it's already
Wow.
bubbling, but it's going to take off, and
Mm.
it's going to concretize into complete conflict of ideas, which we need to see. It has to happen. We have to see it go to the extreme.
We're seeing it happen.
It's happening. And it's going to go to the extremes, and then boom, it's gonna do its thing, and we're gonna live through what happens next. But this pile up,
Yeah.
starting with Uranus entering Gemini. So every time this happens, you saw the beginning of World War II. You saw the beginning of Civil War. You saw the beginning of the American Revolution, 1775. Each one of these
Yeah.
Uranus enters signatures. So we're pulling the trigger not just on one of these, but like 3 or 4 at the same time.
But those were in a Piscean age, and we're stepping to an Aquarius. So
Good
this
point.
may be a new paradigm
We're
altogether.
using lasers now instead of
Well,
bullets.
that's right. I mean, war looks completely different. It's a war of mind and consciousness that we're in, a war for our soul right now. And it's true that these are war signatures. We don't have to repeat history. But the unique thing about these outer planetary ingresses, which by the way, all 5 of the outer planets shifted signs within 1 year, which has never happened in history ever.
Wow.
And that was between 2025 and 2026. And each of these ingresses were in history explicit of a battle of major world war.
Yeah.
However, the thing that's so unique about it is that even though individually they have had this historical expression in the sky in this year, 2026, they're creating a sacred geometrical tetrahedron, or a trine, a grand trine, which is a very flowing, abundant, auspicious mathematical symmetry between them. So it's like by the time we get to the summer, they're creating a new pattern, a new frequency pattern in the collective field that's going to be brought forth over the next 2 years.
So we as people who are catalysts for change, and we all can be that, how do we approach this time as an individual doing our part to jump into an Aquarian age that would be more expansive, loving, kinder, as opposed to war? How do we jump into that?
I think we should do one of the most challenging things is we need to reassess and recalibrate all our energetic impressions of reality. The people we have in it, the things that we think that are happening around us, we need to just get in tune with ourselves, and then recalibrate how we are projecting outward towards others. It's very simple. If you get down to the rudiments of energy, frequency, and vibration, that we need to not be caught in any of the old programming, and that means any inclinations we may have had about judgment. It's like I'm having new revelations about people all the time. It's like, man, I misjudged that person. They're struggling, but they're a good person. Whatever, So it's like I was weighing myself down with these little bitty things, and this can scale up all the way to everything happening on the world stage. We're judging all of that as well in some way, and it's weighing us down. We're tethered to it. It's not giving us it's not allowing us to tap into the resources that we need to make the frequency change moving ahead. So,
wow, great answer. We are the catalyst of what we want to become. Stay focused.
Neutrality over duality. So just a simple slogan, because truly, if we really are operating from this Aquarian one mind perspective, there is nothing outside. There is no evildoer on the other side of the world. There's some imbalance in the organism, yes. So how can we work with it alchemically as masters? It's forgiveness, it's compassion, it's sending love. It's a Tonglen meditation where you actually breathe in the darkness, you transmute, and you send out love.
You transfer through communication, through the field, the awareness of our connectedness. That's what you do. You try to get that out into the field at all times.
I love it. And we're coming to the end of the show, and I wanted to let everybody know you've been listening to Shannon Gill and Russell von Ohlhausen. And you can find them at Shannon Lee Gill, and that'd be LEIGILL.com, and Russell at mindfrontiers.net, and then the shiftfoundation.org, and the Astram, ASTRAM.org. And this is Becoming Quantum Conscious, and you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Radio Network. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us.
It was so awesome, and hope to have you again.
Definitely.
We're going to say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.